They all got expensive gifts. My daughter got nothing from grandfather. Then came the surprise that shamed them. My 8-year-old daughter, Emma, stood quietly at the edge of the crowded dining room, her small hands clenched tightly around an empty envelope. Everyone else was laughing, exchanging shiny wrapped boxes and showing off expensive gifts under the glittering chandelier. But Emma was invisible to them all, except me. I watched as she looked toward her grandfather, Richard, who was surrounded by family, handing out extravagant presents to every grandchild. Except Emma. Not a single gift came her way. My heart clenched, but Emma's face stayed calm, almost too calm for her age. Then, without warning, she stepped forward, cleared her throat, and said softly, "Grandpa, I don't have a gift, but I have something for you." The room fell silent. Forks paused mid-air, and eyes turned toward my daughter, puzzled and uneasy. Richard gave a dismissive chuckle and motioned for her to come closer, but what happened next shocked everyone more than any gift ever could. Let me tell you how Emma ended up standing there alone in a room full of luxury and love, and how the surprise she gave that night turned everything upside down for our family. When I first met Richard, Emma's grandfather, I believed we were joining a close-knit, loving family. I was excited, hopeful even. Richard was a respected businessman with a reputation for generosity and warmth. At least that's what I thought. His house was grand, full of laughter and family gatherings, and I imagined Emma growing up surrounded by love and support. First, everything seemed perfect. Richard would smile kindly at Emma, ask about her school, and sometimes bring little treats. I told myself, maybe all those stories of family drama were just exaggerations. Emma deserves to be part of this, I thought. She's his granddaughter after all. But over time, the signs started to show. It was subtle at first. Richard never invited Emma to join the other grandchildren on trips or family outings. Birthday parties felt like a performance where Emma was always on the sidelines. She wasn't included in photos or family group chats, and her name was rarely mentioned when gifts were discussed. I tried to brush it off as forgetfulness, or maybe Emma being a bit shy. But then came the holidays, when everyone else was showered with gifts, Richard's attention, and praise. Emma got nothing, not even a card. I remember one Christmas Eve clearly. Emma sat quietly by the fireplace, watching as the other kids tore into their presents. When she looked at me, her eyes said everything I didn't want to admit. She felt invisible. That night, my heart broke a little more. Emma was just 7, with a heart full of hope and a mind too young to understand the complicated ways adults sometimes behave. She believed family meant unconditional love, and she trusted that her grandfather would cherish her just like the others. Every smile from Richard, every kind word, she held on to like a precious treasure. For a long time, Emma didn't question the differences. When the other grandchildren received expensive gifts, wrapped in shiny paper, she thought maybe her surprise was just coming later. When family photos didn't include her, she told herself it was because she blinked or wasn't looking at the camera. When whispered conversations stopped as she approached, she convinced herself they were talking about something else. Her innocence was a shield, protecting her from the harsh truth. She would ask me, "Mom, do you think Grandpa likes me?" With wide, trusting eyes that shattered my heart. How could I explain a grown man's coldness to a little girl who only wanted to be loved? But as time went on, the truth seeped in like a slow, painful drip. Emma started to notice the pattern. She'd watch the other kids show off their new toys, their laughter ringing louder than her own quiet voice. She overheard whispers about which grandkids were favorites, and she felt the sting of being left out. One day, after a family gathering, Emma came to me holding a small, plain box her gift from Richard. There were no ribbons, no sparkling paper, just a simple cardboard box with a note inside that barely said, "From Grandpa." Her face fell, confusion mixed with hurt. "I don't understand, Mom," she whispered, tears brimming. "Why does Grandpa give them so many gifts but never to me?" That moment broke something inside me. Her innocence was fading, replaced by a growing awareness of rejection. But what hurt most was knowing she blamed herself, wondering if she had done something wrong. I held her tight, whispering that she was loved beyond measure, that no gift could ever measure her worth. Yet I knew that the wound wasn't just hers. It was a family wound that needed healing. The slow realization was painful, but it also marked the beginning of a change, a moment where silence would no longer be accepted. The breaking point came on a chilly December evening during the family's annual holiday party. The house was buzzing with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. Yet for Emma, it was the loneliest moment she had ever experienced. As the adults mingled and the kids eagerly tore into their gifts, Emma sat quietly on the couch, clutching the plain box Richard had given her weeks ago. Her eyes darted around the room, watching as her cousins unwrapped brand-new tablets, expensive sneakers, and designer clothes, each gift a bright, gleaming reminder of what she didn't have. I noticed the way her little hands trembled, the forced smile that barely masked the hurt inside. I wanted to shield her from the cruelty, but the truth was unavoidable. Emma's fragile heart was breaking right there, surrounded by a family that seemed to forget she existed. Then came the moment that shattered everything. Richard, her grandfather, stood up with a smug smile, raising his glass to announce a grand surprise for all the grandchildren. Each name was called, and one by one, the kids rushed forward to receive their lavish gifts. The room filled with applause, cheers, and wide eyes. Except for Emma. No name was called for her. No gift was placed in her hands. The silence around her was deafening. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she looked to me, silently begging for an explanation I didn't have. I saw the confusion turn to shame, and the shame morph into anger, the kind of anger only a child can feel when the adults around them fail to protect them. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I couldn't let this go on. Not another holiday, not another day of Emma feeling invisible in the family she belonged to. I stood up, walked toward Richard, and faced him with everything I had, every hurt, every frustration, every silent scream for justice. The room fell still. Conversation stopped. Eyes turned toward us. That night, the facade cracked. The carefully hidden truth spilled out, and no one could ignore it anymore. After that painful holiday night, I knew I couldn't fight this battle with anger alone. Emma needed more than just words and confrontations. She needed a plan, a quiet weapon that would speak louder than any gift or insult. I began by encouraging Emma to find her own voice, something pure and unbreakable beyond the shallow judgments of others. We spent hours after school working on her passions, painting, storytelling, and writing letters she'd never send, but that helped her make sense of the hurt inside. I also enrolled her in a local youth leadership program where she met kids who had faced their own struggles but learned to turn pain into power. Emma blossomed there, her confidence growing like a slow-burning flame. Meanwhile, I quietly gathered evidence, not just of the favoritism and coldness in the family, but of Emma's kindness, intelligence, and resilience. I documented her awards, her community work, and her dreams, creating a portfolio that showed who she truly was, far beyond the ignored granddaughter. I reached out to a few close family members who had shown signs of empathy before and shared my concerns in private conversations. Slowly, I built a network of allies who believed Emma deserved more than silence and exclusion. But the most powerful weapon was Emma herself. She started speaking up, not with anger, but with calm, undeniable truth. At school events, in conversations, with family, even through letters she bravely read aloud, Emma's dignity and strength began to shine. Her quiet courage made the family uncomfortable, forcing them to see her in a new light. No longer the invisible girl, Emma became a symbol of grace under fire, a reminder that love and respect cannot be bought or given only to favorites. Through this slow, steady empowerment, Emma took control of her story. She wasn't waiting for gifts or approval anymore. She was becoming the gift, a beacon of hope and resilience that no neglect or silence could dim. The day of the family reunion arrived, a grand occasion filled with laughter, chatter, and, as always, the usual swirl of hidden tensions. Emma walked into the room, her head held high, carrying the portfolio I had helped her prepare. It wasn't just a collection of papers. It was proof of her strength, her talents, and the truth no one wanted to face. As gifts were handed out, the familiar pattern repeated. Expensive watches for the boys, designer bags for the girls. Everyone but Emma received something special. She waited quietly, her expression calm, but inside, a storm was brewing. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. Emma stepped forward, clearing her throat softly. "Grandpa," she said, holding up her portfolio, "before you give out gifts, I want you to see this." The room went silent. Page by page, Emma revealed her accomplishments. Honors from school, letters from teachers praising her kindness, her volunteer work helping local kids. The family watched, stunned, as the invisible girl they'd overlooked showed them who she really was. Grandpa's face paled. The proud smiles faded into uncomfortable glances. Whispers started spreading through the crowd. For years, he had favored others, blind to Emma's quiet brilliance. Then, almost whispering, Grandpa reached out to take the portfolio. "Emma, I didn't know," he said, voice cracking with regret. But Emma wasn't done. "You didn't?" "No, because no one bothered to look. I don't want gifts anymore. I want respect." That moment shattered the silence, breaking down years of neglect in a flood of truth. Some family members apologized quietly. Others looked away in shame. The atmosphere changed, tense, raw, but finally real. Emma walked away from the table. No longer the forgotten granddaughter, but a young woman who demanded to be seen and heard. And for the first time, the family had to face the cost of their blindness. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in the family shifted. Grandpa, once distant and distracted, started reaching out to Emma in ways he never had before. He asked about her dreams, attended her school events, even proudly showed her portfolio to old friends. It wasn't perfect, and the wounds of the past didn't heal overnight, but it was a start. Emma, too, found a new confidence blossoming inside her. No longer invisible, she began to speak up, not just in family gatherings, but in every part of her life. She realized her worth wasn't tied to gifts or approval, but to her own strength and spirit. At the next family dinner, Grandpa surprised everyone again. This time, he called Emma up and gave her a gift, not an expensive one, but a simple locket, with a note inside. "For my granddaughter who taught me to truly see." Tears filled the room as Emma accepted it. The gift wasn't about material things. It was a symbol of change, forgiveness, and hope. And though not everyone was ready to admit their mistakes, the family knew something important had shifted. The walls of silence and exclusion had cracked, making room for honesty and love. Emma's story became more than just about gifts or hurt feelings. It became a lesson that sometimes the most valuable gifts are the ones that come from opening hearts and learning to truly see each other. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to smash that thumbs up and hit subscribe for more unforgettable, emotional, and viral true stories. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us where in the world are you watching from.